Pigeons 420. Mr. Grow It. And Rob from Cannabis Lifestyle TV. From the Stash Podcast.
This episode is brought to you by AC Infinity. Use discount code THESTASH15 for a discount on any of their products. AC Infinity is well known to have some of the highest quality gardening equipment on the market today. They have everything from grow lights, grow tents, inline fans, oscillating fans, smart controllers, and so much more. Visit their website at acinfinity.com and don't forget to use discount code THESTASH15 to save on any of their products.
So I say let's do a little Q&A like we were talking about, man. I see we already got a question from Mustache Mike. What's better for added nutrients for an organic grow, compost tea or liquid nutrient? Looking to step up yield and quality a bit. Now, when it comes to yield and organics, if you're using a soil that you're going to continuously keep adding to and re-amending, I think it's going to take more than just a few runs. You know, prime example is looking at Goblin's run. When he first started, he had the initial mix. Now he's got this banging mix of soil that's producing what he needs more. It takes a little more time for you to get basically the full microbiology and life within that soil. Now, Chris, you could probably add on more of that so you get the cover crop and a little bit more life in your mix than others.
Yeah, well, let me go back to his question. He says, what's better, added nutrients, compost tea or liquid nutrients? Typically, people do for compost teas, it's more for the microbiology, not so much the nutrients. Now, if you're doing a nutrient tea, if you're talking about a nutrient tea, that's a separate thing. Liquid nutrients, I'm not sure if he's talking like a bottled line, like Nectar of the Gods, or
So I was thinking of BioBiz or something different.
Yeah, I mean that's one option is the liquid side of things, or you can do the dry amendment top dress side of things. Is another easy way to go about it. A lot of people do like to do that blends because they can just top dress a few times. I'm not sure what liquid feed you were looking at and how often the feeds would have to be done, but I know for most of those organic blends, you're only really doing like 2 or 3 top dressings an entire grow. So if you're looking for simplicity, you might want to go that avenue. And then the compost teas would kind of be on top of it as a boost in the microbiology. So typically compost teas will be roughly every 2 weeks. Sometimes people do it once a month. Sometimes people do it once a week, but other people will say that's an overkill. So there's several options, a way to go about it.
Well, and then you also look at the fact of yield difference. I don't know if either's going to help with the yield difference. One is going to be quicker versus the other. One's readily available. One's going to be, again, more of a slow release. So if you're doing the top feeding, it's going to take more time to see those results versus hitting it right away with nutrients. But again, what's going to be better long-term for your soil? You got to think about that too. So I wouldn't personally think that adding more nutrients is going to increase the yield necessarily. There's other things you could do within that area. Again, of plant training, vegging longer, potentially increasing your CO2 and light at the same time, so more intensity. There's other things I think you should start at first before adding more food in the mix, personally. If your plant's already green and looking good, you might not want to push them too much.
Obviously, you need military-grade CalMag. That was a good
100%.
question. Someone else was asking, can we hit on the topic of seeds and their price? This is from Krona Ready. Hearing some crazy prices. What would a price be for a prized genetic, like a Canna Cup winner? Well, to be honest, it really it's subjective. That took the words right out of my mouth. What would you pay for a prized genetic rather than somebody else pay for a prized genetic? It's a tough question. I think seeds are generally overpriced 100% of the time. And if you're going to get into the question of, you know, something that you've followed along with, say a Chill Out OG, let's say it wins a Canna Cup of sorts, you know, I would personally be willing to pay like a couple $100 to ensure that I was going to get a pack of 10, you know what I mean? Or something like that. But those kind of those kind of prices for anything else is just astronomical. Seeds right now are the single highest point aspect of your entire garden. That's including lights. We're blowing way too much money on seeds. So they're way overpriced. But again, it's subjective because what I would pay for those prized chill out OGs is not what somebody else would pay in, Switzerland or UK. That's just not
Or who
following the
doesn't
same
know
progression.
Chris? Who doesn't
That's
know
what
the
I'm trying to
plants?
say.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, then at the same time too, you got to think about mass production and what's readily available. You go buy seeds at fucking Home Depot or somewhere, they have a factory that's producing these seeds versus a lot of breeders have a house or a small garage or a pole barn or maybe even a small warehouse themselves, but nothing massive in terms of being able to shuck out a ton. So when you don't have mass production, your cost is going to be a little higher, thus meaning supply and demand. It is what it is. It's basic business. But then you also look at most of these breeders are thinking this person is going to go and trap their shit out or they're going to make some sort of money off it. So if you get at least an ounce back off of one of these plants, you should have got your money back. Same time, that's not everybody's goal. Some people, again, most people, medical patients, they just want to have good medicine, but it's hit or miss on the genetics and stability, so many different variables. So the price I agree with, but I wish there was like a medical option where if you showed your medical card, you get a better deal,
Got a question from Todd Various. What are some of the downsides of growing outdoors? I think this is man, there's so many, right? There's a lot. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Pests, number one, more prone to pests. Number two, you don't have control over your environment like you do indoors, right? So the weather, for example, you don't have control over any rain, cloudiness that you have to experience. It's not like you control VPD at all. You can't control CO2 at all. Those are the main things that come to mind right off the top of my head. You shouldn't grow with synthetics outdoor because of the runoff and excess runoff of these synthetic nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, are leading to toxic algae blooms. So that's a huge reason why people are against synthetics, is that alone. So if you are outdoors, it's highly encouraged to run organic. Those are the main things that I think of off the top of my head. What about you, Rob? What do you think? What am I missing?
I'd say the natural predators in Michigan, deer love to eat your weed. So there's definitely that. And then depending on where you're growing, there's regulations on if you can grow outside or if you need to have a 6-foot privacy fence, all these variables that make it so your landscape of your home may need to be modified. And then again, my quality control is just a big thing for me. I think that it's harder to do unless you're in a greenhouse like Doggo's got. You'll be dealing with that, and thieves too. Idiom's exactly right. I've had 2 of my best outdoor crops stolen, so that's what it is. It happens. Fucking weed pirates.
And discretion's another thing. A lot of us are growing in places that you're just not allowed to grow, allegedly. And having it outside, you're open to the environment, you're open to sight, you're open to smell. And let me tell you, man, the biggest deterrent to growing outside for me is the smell. And the reason it's the smell is because I don't want my neighbor, we live in a beautiful part of the country where people enjoy a lot of time outside for just a short fraction of time. And I know that I personally don't want to just smell wafts of weed every time I go out into my backyard, and that's someone who enjoys the smell of weed, it could be overbearing. It can be, distracting. So yeah, I don't grow outside because I just don't want the attention. I prefer the discretion or the discreetness. No.
Yeah. I like to keep my shit on the low,
despite the fact that I make YouTube videos about it.
Well, even if it's legal, and I don't want my neighbors coming fucking over and mooching,
Yeah. It's amazing how many more friends you have when it's harvest time, right? Nobody wants to help you trim it, but everybody wants to help you smoke it.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm all set on that. All set on it.
Another question from Todd Various, which I'll call out real quick. I don't want to give you the spotlight the entire time, Todd, but you asked about the Freak Show. So Freak Show by Humboldt Seaco. I'm growing out 2 right now from clone. And I'm just speaking on my experience with them. Right now, they are in like week 6 of flower. So we're coming up towards the end here. Now, YouTube, the updates don't reflect that. I have a couple videos in the backlog that I haven't posted onto YouTube yet. So keep that in mind. But it is very lemony flavor, a little bit more airier on the bud structure than I would like. It is flopping all over the place right now. I mean, I have to have support on there. So heavy feeder as well. But and I haven't consumed it yet, so I can't really talk about consumption and how it tastes or things like that. So that's kind of, I guess, the only update I have for you at the moment.
A question that I saw that I think is really interesting because it's something that we've never really touched on. in general, and I like it because now Chris is definitely going to have the right answer, so we'll let him answer last. Is from Blitz83. It says, question, how would you guys theorize about the origins of our body's endocannabinoid system? I don't know if that's...
on this. What are you talking about,
Oh,
man?
good.
You're the one who has the answer.
Please, I don't have the answer.
Everybody knows, man. Siberia's got it from the Anunnaki. We all got it. Now we're aliens. Boom.
You took it from me. I was going to say the aliens gave it to us.
Yeah, we know this, dog. Come on, man. You guys seen Top Buds? Have you guys seen Top Buds?
Yeah. If you haven't, you can find it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, except for... No, yeah, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday over on Top Buds. But anyway, shameless plug. Top Buds live here on Twitch. But I believe it has to do with just nurture versus nature, man. I believe we are products of our environments. We are products of the earth. We're products of the solar system. We're products of everything. You know, there's a little bit of me and you, and there's a little bit of Venus in all of us. And it's like, I believe that the endocannabinoid system is a part of that. It is the cannabinoids, the weed, the plant is a product of the environment to which we came from, and in very similar ways that you find pieces of the earth in the moon, it's because I believe that they came from one another. You know what I mean? And so as we evolved naturally, I believe our race or our species, if you will, took advantage and utilized cannabinoids. And in the same way that we have evolved over time to have eyeballs in the front of our heads, we've evolved over time to receive cannabinoids to help perpetuate our existence and our not just existence, but our success as a race. So I just believe it's part of it. It's part of us, and it came from the earth. And I'm right. So
100%.
don't Google it.
No need to ask Google. 100% fact.
What are you guys saying?
Well, what you said is exactly what I believe.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah.
You got science to back
Nothing
anything?
to add. No.
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
There's no clinical testing to say otherwise. Somebody was asking about favorite companion plant or favorite companion pants. Depends on what you're into. I really like this one right here.
The dry fits.
Those ones, they work good. They're real tight. I've been using this girl right here. She's a Pendulica Aphrodite. You don't have to feed it. You just water it. It eats the little shitty flying bugs that pop up everywhere for everybody, seemingly. Like just a couple of them pop up. Doesn't matter, from outside, from the plants. She'll take care of business. It's nice. And she'll bloom. You get a little pink flower every so often.
Oh.
But very, very easy to maintain, man. Just water it, plain water. And then it eats bugs. Very nice. I love it. Love it. Shout out to my uncle for that. He hooked me up with a couple of them.
You were going to say something, Chris. Go ahead.
Marigolds is one. I have outdoors that helps deter pests, deters aphids. I think there's more than that. I know of aphids on that one, but you can just Google marigolds deter pests, and you can see what else it deters.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to find the actual name of it. Lamb's breath. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, my kid can identify those randomly in neighborhoods. Like, oh, Dad, lamb's breath. I'm like, how are you?
Yeah, there's a scientific name, but I can't figure it out. And oftentimes you'll plant a seed, or you'll have a pot, and there'll just be lamb's breath growing right beside it. And often it's like, how did that happen? Probably contamination, but it often grows side by side with weed. Aloe, did we say that? Aloe's a good companion plant as well.
You could utilize that a lot in the garden too.
That's right.
For even clothing, it just extra watering. There's a lot of benefits to it.
Totally. Yeah. Good questions, man. Good question. East Coast Bud Farmer, thank you very much for the tier 1, man, for the 3 months, baby. 3 months.
Here's some information on that plant that I was talking about right there. She's kind of like a Venus flytrap in a way. The bugs will get stuck on the leaves and it eats the fucking bugs. It's crazy, man.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Now, what about cover crops? Are they worth it? It says Essex Ganja. Wow, I can't speak right now.
Essex, good to see you, buddy.
We're getting high.
Shout out to the UK. Yeah, totally. As a non-organic grower, I can see the benefits of having a crop cover. Great to help insulate your pot from either heat or cold, or hot or cold. Works for pests. It helps to maintain moisture. You know, if you're in a place that doesn't dries up too fast, great way to maintain the moisture in your pot. That's all I covered
pretty much everything. I use clover. White Dutch clover is what I'm currently using and have been using for years now. Some people say that it attracts bugs. Okay, so keep that in mind. It does help with water retention. That's one main reason why I use it, and I use it for nitrogen fixation. So it takes nitrogen from the air, converts it into a form that's useful for the plants, and dumps it into the medium. So,
is it straw that I often see?
Well, that's a mulch
on other
layer.
ones.
Yeah.
Mulch.
Yeah.
Mulch. Oh, so it's wood.
Yeah,
it's not
barley
straw.
is what you're looking at.
Oh, it's straw. Oh, okay. Good question. Who asked that one? Sorry. Oh, Essex gotcha. Essex
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's good.
Pixel asks, so is that just in a pot in the tent or both in the same pot?
The thing that I have there, I've got 3 of them in the 4x8 and 1 in my 4x4.
And they're in their own pots just like that?
And little girls like this. You know what I'm saying? Pretty simple pimple. And again, just water it. You could order them online. I'm pretty sure I found this locally, but they're nice, man. I love the vibe of them too. Just seeing them in the gardens, that was pretty cool. I like plants.
Nice. Another question is, when is your guys' favorite time to chop down the plant? Asked Griff.
I like a 20-30% amber, and I like a good fade on the plant. Sometimes I've pushed stuff a little too far because I want to see a little bit of a fade on the leaves. Some don't fade out like that. You know, Headbanger is a prime example where she kind of yellows a little. She doesn't get the nice, cool colors you'd see in other cultivars. So it just depends on what I'm running and what my goal is in terms of the potency. Because Headbanger seemingly is one that I like to pull a little earlier than others, versus Scooby-Doo, I like to go a little later than others. It's like the high is a little different with that particular cultivar when it's left a little longer versus the latter. So I think that it's very, very cultivar specific, but it's based on plant being finished. That's the key thing. It's like, when are you going to pull your steak? Somebody want a medium rare, somebody want rare, somebody want well done. Figure out what works best for you with that cultivar.
That's a good way to put it. I usually do one mostly cloudy, and I kind of ignore the amber. Like, there'll be amber in there, but I'm not looking for a certain percentage. I'm just looking to see that most of the trichomes are cloudy.
Those see-throughs.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's usually for me too, because the amber is like minimal, and I always feel like my fingers did that, or damage. Like I damaged the glands a little bit. They're bruised, so to speak. So I don't know. What about you, P?
Yeah, I'm generally the same. I'm looking for high THC content, so I want those trichomes to be majority milky. Not looking for many amber at all. But again, it'd be great if every scenario I could always be looking at the trichomes. Sometimes I've got 4 plants, 3 of them are done. That 4th one's done. It's really what meets my schedule. I hate harvesting now, man. It's one of the most labor-intensive, stressful times of the entire process. And it's become a burden. It's become a chore. And it's like harvest time comes around, it's like, fuck. So it's like, it's 4 plants max now for me, but generally speaking, it's trichomes.
Yeah,
Milky,
never base it on the
primarily.
pistils. That's a big mistake I made early on, is I based it off the pistils. They got to be
And
nice
why,
and
though?
orange.
Why did you make that mistake? Do you know?
Because I'm dumb.
No,
Well, it was misconception, I feel like.
Misinformation. 90% of the stuff you found online was, you're looking for orange pistils. The pistils need to be receding back
That was
into
10
the
years
buds.
ago. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly how hard people were harvesting their weed. And then you realized why 95% of your harvests were either early or late.
Yeah.
Because you'll have receding hairlines at week fucking 5, or you'll have some strains that are week 13. This Maui Wowie I had was throwing pistols at week 13, man. So it's like,
I
no,
know. I've had that too,
can't.
where like I
foxtails.
I did a run one time with House and Garden, and I used their shooting powder, and you get these new shoots that'll basically have new pistols, and then at that point you're like, oh shit, it's got to grow a lot longer, and not usually the case. Sometimes. Not usually the case. And I've had situations where it foxtailed out and got all weird and ugly because I didn't pull it at the right time. So again, it's a huge cultivar thing. Just depends on it. Not all will act that way.
Yep. Thick Ass Glass was kind enough to send me this beautiful Klein recycler. It's their 18-inch version, and boy, when you watch this thing in action, it is incredible. Just watching the way that the water swirls through the piece and the smoke kind of just mingles its way together. This is absolutely beautiful, and can I tell you, it is thick. From the mouthpiece to the stand to the percolators in the middle, you can tell that this is really thick glass. And so I think it's true to the name for thick ass glass. And using promo code THESTASH to help save a few dollars off at checkout. Yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of changed with time. I also remember people saying that they will not harvest until their plant's foxtail. And I think that's crazy because I feel that there's late, then there's too late, and then there's fucking foxtailing. And I'm like, in my opinion, you've waited way too long. But then again, some cultivars are foxtailing in week 4, 5. But generally speaking, yeah, I just find that foxtails are too late. But it really comes down, again, preference, man. Are you looking for the CBD? Are you looking for the CBN? Are you looking for the THC? Do you prefer the couch lock? Do you prefer the euphoric? Do you want that narcotic high? There's so many variables. That shirt's coming soon.
I know, one day we will follow through.
Thank you so much, Jay Shorty M, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. 5 gifted subs to some legends, too. Cannabis gets one. We got Rift in there. Dillhole got one. Red King. Flip this jersey. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for the love.
Hell yeah.
Go ahead, Rob. What you got?
I was just going to say, when it comes to the foxtailing, I see a lot of times light stress or heat is usually a big indicator there. But there's a big situation, too, where a cultivar thing that people will not notice. Prime example is if anybody saw the video on CLtv, we had a Skywalker OG, and that thing looked like it's throwing gang signs up. It was crazy. No matter how you grow it, where you grow it, what's going on, winter, summer, fall, low light, high light, it doesn't matter. It would always just be out here west side and constantly. And I'm like, why is this doing this to me? Like, I ended up getting rid of it because of it. It was so mutated looking and funky, but it was dank, bud. Super good flower. Just wasn't good looking at all. So some cultivars are just scraggly and gaggly and ugly. Definitely gonna happen.
Yep.
We didn't even talk about what anyone's smoking. Is anyone smoking with me, or am I smoking by myself?
You're smoking all by yourself right now. I haven't smoked anything. I'm afraid to.
Chunky.
Purple Frost Giant by Welcome to the Grow Tent.
Oh, nice. How's the flavor?
What do you think?
It's pretty good. It's like a light gas type of funk. More like I would say more on the limony flavor.
Really?
Like terpenes, lime flavor type. Yeah. So pretty good.
I love GT, but that's another name that pushed. I've got a pack. I never popped it because I was like, purple. Anything under here purple, I'm like, that's not my funk. But
yeah, it started to turn purple towards the end of the grow on one of the cultivars I had. It was really nice looking, real dent bud structure all the way down. So as far as it grew, it was good. But I'm terrible explaining taste and smells.
That I've always said that's because, like, I do too. Now, granted, weed does have, I still call it weed. Weed does have terpenes like a lot of other fruits, like oranges and like sorry, let me rephrase that. Other fruits have terpenes as well, and those terpenes are often found in your weed. But I find that, sorry, I guess Stephanie knows, that the description of weed is so much different. It's hard to describe. It's like, what do you have? I got weed, man. It tastes like weed. It's like, it's a good one, It's normally on like a level all to itself.
Well, and that's where like I try not to get too deep into it. I'll just be like, this one leans more towards that piney, gassy funk. This one leans towards that sweet, light, mild. Or this is more lemony, like just so they get the general idea. When I start throwing science at these motherfuckers, they're like, But it's like, it just depends on if you know like the terpene chart, so to speak. And once you know what you like, then you should really dive into that to see why you like it. Like this is what I smoke. I smoke gassy shit only, really. I don't like much else. And I think it works well with my endocannabinoid system. And I'm not the type that's going to change. I don't go order new food very often. I get the same shit. Because sometimes I'm disappointed. And then I have a meal that's ruined. Just like my blunt. I'm like, more times than not, when I get some new stuff, I'll take a few hits and I'm like, no, next. It's just not me.
Some people are straight up connoisseurs. I know. I don't know. I know you guys follow High Rise TV. I think they have a new YouTube channel, and they just released a strain review. I clicked on it and watched it. Great quality. They have incredible production. And the guy on there, I don't know.
That was with the big dude, right?
The big dude, yeah. He's
I was watching.
A straight up connoisseur, like explaining every single detail about what's going on and stuff. I'm like, man, that guy really knows. He must be like a bud tender or something,
Yeah, see, and that's where like some people are going to be that connoisseur who really breaks down every bit of everything and appreciates every bit of everything. I just like gas. I can appreciate it, I guess, but it's all subjective, of course. But some weed's better than no weed. That's the big the big lesson for me in the past where I've been like, nah, I'm just gonna only grow shit that doesn't produce much but has that gas. And it's like, damn, I harvested like nothing, smoked it all in a month, and I've got a month until I harvest.
Right.
So you got to find a balance sometimes. You got to find that balance.
Got a question from Joshua Farms. When would you consider week 1 of flower for an auto flower? When the stigma hairs first show or later on?
Well, yeah, once you're seeing those pistils developing into actual bud sites, I'd consider that being as flower started.
Yeah, typically it's around 30 days roughly from sprout when you start to see pistils come out. Some people consider that the start of flowering and they consider day 1. Some people will make sure that there's several pistils showing and they're rapid development each day. Then they'll say, okay, that's day 1 of flower, and then they'll go from there. So kind of varies on depending on who you ask.
Totally does.
The cop-out answer is we start day 1 of flowering when the plant starts to flower. So
very Canadian, you, Christopher. I actually have a different opinion in both of those, which is fantastic, and that's why I love this show, and that's why they're the better growers than I am. The thing is that I have pre-flowers typically 30 days in from seed, as Chris said. So flowering actually happens in veg. And when I start day 1 of flower, according to the nutrient chart, is the first day I flip 12 and 12. That day is day 1 of flower. So then when I go to feed 3 days later because she's hungry, what does she get? Week 1 of flower nutrients. Boom. Starts from there.
Do you flip the light cycle for autoflowers? Because he was talking about autos.
Oh, was he? Oh, no. Yeah. Sorry. No,
okay.
I don't. 18.6. Yeah. Right. Sorry, I missed the autos question.
It happens.
I don't listen either.
No, that's also a good thing too. No, with the autos though, it's weird because I've had a few. They look like they were starting to flower, but they still kept stretching more. Like you would see when something flips to flower, but the light cycle didn't change at all. So sometimes you'll see like those pre-sex pistils, so to speak, and it'll trick you thinking that you've already started flower, but it's just the pre-sex pistils. So it just depends. I don't know. I've only grown like 3 or 4 runs of autos, so I'm no expert. But from what I've seen, at least.
Got another one here. What's considered a low harvest per plant for you guys? Asks Obi's House of Grow.
Sorry, what was the what? Rephrase.
What's considered a low harvest per plant?
I'd say 2 ounces or under for a photo period. And it depends on how large it is. If you're doing a bunch of them, a small amount of them, like quick veg, then 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces is okay. But if you're vegging for like 2 months and you've done some training to it and you're getting less than 2 ounces, that's not good. You may even want to consider getting a new cultivar. Because, I mean, I'm just scraping 3.5 with the headbanger, but it's my favorite.
I typically aim for 2 to 3 ounces per plant and keep my plants smaller. I've certainly grown out plants that yielded 5, 6, 7, 8 ounces per plant, but then I sit on it, and I'm just growing for myself, so I'm just consuming the same cultivar. I have 8 ounces of the same cultivar. It's like, so I don't like to grow for a high yield anymore. I personally aim for like 2 to 3 ounces per plant. And that maintains, I grow a bunch of different cultivars, and then that allows me to vary between different cultivars. And then by the time my next grow is up, hopefully I've gotten through that, and then which never happens, but yeah, 2 to 3 for me. What about you, P?
Again, I don't really like use numbers to compare. It's like it really depends.
For certain ounces per plant.
Nope.
It really depends. Looking at full harvest, right?
Right. So it's like typically, it's like, what did I do with this plant? Is this one that I put my full amount of effort into it? Was it something I was really interested in? Was it something that just got the back burner? Maybe it's only going to get 1 ounce. Maybe it's going to get 2 ounces. Maybe that shit's going to be fire. I've had 14 ounces of fucking trash, grape ape, and then I've had 3 ounces of fucking fire. Holland's Hope. It's like, what do you want? Do you want the 3 ounces or do you want the 14 ounces? I'll take the 3 all day, baby. So it's I'm kind of like, what's a good harvest? It's not the numbers anymore. I haven't weighed a harvest. Like literally the only reason I weigh harvests is because it's YouTube. It's like, it's literally just, you put that shit into a jar, you put it into a cupboard, it's gone. It's done. I don't care how much it is. I just go by the looks. Does it fill a quart jar or not? I get 12 quarts, that kind of thing. So yeah, numbers are just numbers, and I don't think that that's what you should be caught up on when you're growing. But for the sake of the question, because that's what you asked, Yeah, 3 ounces or less would be kind of bunk, I guess.
Yeah,
If
and that's where it's like depending on the size of the plant, like that beast that you're getting ready to put in. I may have already put it in the flower.
yeah,
That
yeah,
freak
they
of nature.
switched. Yep.
That
Yep.
if you got 3 ounces off of that, or 4 ounces
I'd
even
be
off of that, I'd be
disappointed.
like, whoa.
I'd be very disappointed because that was 3
exactly.
months of veg, right? That was 3 months of veg for 3 ounces would be
Yeah, that's a
pitiful.
bitch.
It'd be a
So
waste of time.
my focus is per light always, because like how much am I filling up in this space, and that's more the focus. If I didn't fill up that space, then that's why I didn't yield what I did, is because my canopy was a joke. So you got to fill up the room, whether that be 1 plant, 2 plants, 3 plants, 4 plants, but making sure your square footage is large enough that you end up having that whole area covered, lights penetrating properly, and you're going to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. But again, some cultivars have further nodes. Some just don't yield nearly as much. They don't stack or connect into colas. It just really depends. I know I've seen a lot recently at the commercial grows, the real popular, expensive dank ones like the ice cream cake or the white truffle, anything that's really popular. You're seeing bud sites here, and they're lanky, tall. They're probably getting 2.5 ounces a plant. But then the other ones that are that booth shit you get for 60 and 8 that does nothing, they're getting 4, 5, 6, 8 ounces of plant, the same size plant in the same room with the same conditions. So it varies. Cultivar, again, like it's an easy fallback answer, but cultivar is a huge thing. Per plant is based on which cultivar is being grown usually.
Question here too from King Rit for Chris. So I feel like I should answer it.
I was looking at the same question.
Were you? Okay, good. What advice would you give a first-time pheno hunter?
I think this question would be good for everybody, actually. But I recommend watching the Garden Talk episode 6. The title is The Basics of Pheno Hunting, and that's with Northwest J. He has very high standards for pheno hunting. He has there's so many different ways to go about it, but he is very dedicated to it, and we had a great conversation. So I recommend looking at that. As far as some additional advice for first-time pheno hunters, Rob, I think you do more pheno hunting than me, man. I feel like you're a better person.
Always pheno hunting.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why I do it to myself, but I do it a lot. So for me, my biggest determining factor is the flavor of smoke. I never consider the first run my run. Like I'm looking at plant growth. That's important, of course, but literally the end product, the smoke, is my biggest factor. Then after that, I start documenting the growth, and I'm like, all right, how is it growing? Is my leaf to bud ratio nice? Is it got a quick veg? Is it low and squatty, or is it lanky? How much stretch do I get when I flip into flower? How long does it take to finish? And is it one that is a bitch to trim? Again, that leaf to bud ratio is important, but even how those leaves are on the bud. If I've got those stems that are further apart with the fan leaf on there, it's usually the bud that I'll go after personally. But then if I'm using like a trim daddy or something like that, I'll see the crown buds or the crown leaves for the most part. And I'm like, maybe that's it. So the variable for me is more good smoke, number one. Second, good grower. Third, easy trimmer, like easy finisher. And then that's where I determine, like, am I going to keep this one? And if I'm going to keep a multiple, like, how am I going to identify the difference? Are they that big of variables that I can justify having the same cultivar with different phenotypes? And that's usually where you'll see names like white truffle, when you've also got gorilla something. I forgot the name of it. The original one. It's
the original.
Gorilla butter. The actual cultivar is gorilla butter, but the phenotype that's sought after is white truffle. So it's really just about as the grower, what you're looking for. You're looking for yield, or you're looking for commercial stuff. Your factors may be different. You're looking for growth and yield at the end. If you're looking for good smoke, again, number one, good smoke. You're going to be looking after that. It just boils down to overwhelming yourself with pheno hunting. You don't want to do too much at once. 1 pack at a time is my best results. When I pop 2 or 3 packs of different cultivars, I end up having like maybe 2 or 3 good phenos that just make their way out that I don't pay attention to nearly as much. Just depends.
Great. Another question here from the rookie grower. So he asks, what stage do you start using a trellis net? End of veg, beginning of flower? I think you'll get answers where people will say both. Some people will add it towards the end of veg. Some people add it beginning of flower after they flip. The pain in the ass thing is having to weave your plants through. Well, let me say this a different way. If you are in flower and you add in a trellis net, you have to like manipulate the plant, try to get the trellis net. The plant might be too big. It might be a pain in the ass is what I'm trying to say. So you probably want to add that trellis net in to a point where you can kind of flatten the whole canopy and not worry about damaging buds. So flatten the canopy. Then you're going to want to spend a little bit of time to extend out that canopy throughout the different trellis net areas. So I think that pretty much answers your question when to do it. You could do it either or, but I think more people do it at the end of veg. I hate to continue to plug my Garden Talk podcast, but I'm going to because it was a really, really, really good episode with Beast Coast Grower. He and I'll put this link in the chat right now. He talks about everything. Like I dig super deep because he does this every single time, and he's so good at going after yield and making sure everything's done properly. So I pick his brain like really deeply, everything from what type of scrog net, securing it, polyester versus nylon versus polypropylene versus chicken wire, size squares versus net, number of plants per foot. There's a ton of different details. So I'm going to put that episode in there. And then after this live stream, maybe you can check out that episode. It's episode number 34 for those who are interested.
Well, and with having a trellis, I guess it depends, late veg or flower. Are you moving your plants into a flower space, or are you flipping to flower in the same space? That's the biggest factor for me. You're not going to connect a trellis net over here in my veg, unconnect that fucker, somehow take 4 plants and move those over into here. You know what I'm saying? It'll be a situation where it's like they stay where I put the net. So what I usually do is the first 2 days after I get the plants kind of acclimated to the flowering space, I throw the trellis up there. Then the next day or two, then I start doing my bending. And for the next 2 weeks is when I'll do the work. Because again, once you put it into flower, it's not flowering quite yet. You get the stretch. So that's when you're going to work it. But if you grow a beast like P did, you're going to have to do heavy low stress training before you go into that point. Like you need that plant already kind of pancaked, or else it's going to shoot up to the point where you need 2 nets potentially. And now you just have double trellising and not a scrog per se.
Yeah, and actually, Beast Coast Grower, I'm glad you mentioned that because it was because of him that I decided to change up my technique and add 2 nets. He mentioned, and I did mine at the end of veg, and then I ended up flipping, I think 2 days later, or a day later. And then about 4 days later, 5 days later, after everything's all propped up, all the tops have identified themselves, that's when I applied a second net. I was hoping that would kind of, well, he mentioned that kind of takes care of that stretch, give you a little more support coming up above the top of the canopy, and that's what I've done to this one. And yeah, applying it before flower, I think is genius and a must.
Yeah. Funny enough, our next episode of From the Stash podcast, I believe, does feature Beast Coast.
Oh, it is not even live yet, right?
It's not even live yet, but I want to put it out. It was one I was going to wait a little bit, but we've had a lot of scrog questions, and to watch Chris's video first and then watch this as a part 2. And so that way, because the beauty of it is Chris knows what he asked him, so he can ask different questions. So it's like we dove even deeper, It's awesome. Great guy too. When do you start synthetic nutrients? You see that, Fluffy one? And cocoa from seed, day 1, day 7, day 14. Now, plain cocoa with nothing, correct? Inert, nothing. Right away. You need food, but I'd go very low EC to start personally. When I, depending on what I'm using, when I've got Coco Loco, I don't feed for the first week or 2. Otherwise, if I've got something totally inert, then I'm going to feed very low EC to start, probably day 1 or day 2, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't grow in cocoa myself, but the third node, it's kind of that rule of thumb. Now it's kind of who was it that I was speaking with? Maybe it was Grow Tent of all people that mentioned this, that he didn't doesn't even feed in veg sometimes, or said something like that. Maybe I might be misquoting.
Yeah,
that's soil.
With soil. Yeah, he was with straight enriched soil.
Right. And I use Pro Mix HP with my Michigan, and it's I find that I can also get away with not feeding for a very long time as well. But the evidence is in the plant, though. When you do feed, the growth is explosive. But when you don't, they'll survive and they'll grow. But so you don't have to. Now that is in soil with Majikotorizai, but cocoa might be a little bit different. Third node, generally speaking.
Yeah, especially if you already got food in there, you don't want to burn it. Those seeds are sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I think with cocoa, it depends on if it's coming from brick or if it's a bagged. So if it was like a brick, for example, and you're hydrating it, some people will rinse the cocoa, try to get those salts out, and then buffer the cocoa with CalMag. They want to get those calcium to bind those particles and help get rid of that salt. And then I don't know if you guys can hear my cat in the background. He's sneezing all over the place, but
A little bit.
Oh.
Nothing crazy.
Better get a mask
Horrible.
on 'em.
But 250 ppm roughly for the first few weeks, and then increase from there. Short answer.
Yeah, keep it low and steady. Oh, was there another question you were looking at, Chris?
Yeah, I was looking at one from Nestor. Question for Mr. Grow. Did you ever follow up with the testing of the 48 hours of light at the end of harvest after talking with Dr. B? Yes, I made a video on that 48 hours of light before harvest. A lot of people do 48 hours of darkness before harvest, but after talking to Dr. Bruce Bugby, he had mentioned that the 48 hours of darkness before harvest doesn't make sense for forming trichomes. He said that happens during the day. And from my understanding, most of the people that are doing the 48 hours of darkness before harvest, they're doing it as a last-ditch effort to get more trichomes or to make them more potent. And so he had mentioned that this theory doesn't really make sense, but 48 hours of light, which he heard that people are doing in order to stress the plant into getting more trichomes, he said people are currently experimenting with that. I made a video talking about that, and I mentioned that I was going to do that. So I went ahead and did that, 48 hours of light before darkness. And, I kind of regret even saying I was going to do it because I didn't do there's no like testing. I didn't send it out for testing at a lab or anything like that, right? So I'm just literally looking at the plant, and it's so subjective. My answer is going to be subjective. It's like, yeah, it looks like there's more trichomes, but like it's just a subjective answer. So I don't have any hardcore like lab results or anything that I could show 48 hours of light versus non 48 hours of light. I think that would be kind of the next step for somebody to do that, but I didn't do that. So I have a subjective answer for you. Sorry.
Bro science answer. It's okay.
Specialize in it.
How it is.
Hey, we're all bro scientists at heart, right?
Horticulture
Protoculturist.
experts, baby.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Protoculturalist technician.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I think we got time for maybe 1, 2 more.
Infinity. Wow, with 500 bits back there. I just wanted to get that.
Good looking out.
Stony CEO with a first time chatter question says, "What's up, guys? What would cause a plant to go yellow if it's not nitrogen deficiency?" I'm talking the whole plant.
Whole plant.
It could be a
Nothing but the
lockout.
plant, so help
It could
you
be a
God.
lockout. Here's the
new
wonderful
soil
thing
pH usually.
about trying to troubleshoot plants. You can hold up a leaf that's completely yellow. Maybe it's black. You can give it to 5 people, and you're gonna get 5 different answers.
Yep.
Because I can induce very similar looks on a plant just based on different deficiencies. Generally speaking, yeah, it is nitrogen. And if it's yellowing from the bottom up, it's typically a food issue. It's hungry. But if the whole plant is struggling, immediately something's going on in the pot. That's the first thing that I think. Your soil's hot. Maybe it's alkalytic. It's toxic. It's toxic in some way. That's my first guess.
Case of the hot pots. Yep.
The
Can
hot
happen.
pots, baby.
It could be a pH lockout, like you mentioned. Iron is one of those ones that cause the plant to go yellow like that.
And
Typically,
root
that's
damage even
probably-
too.
What's that?
Even root damage too. Like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
so many
Choked out.
variables. Yeah. Fucking choked out, or even the temperature. If the base is way too cold and your roots are really cold, you'll see some droopiness and potentially yellowing. There's so many. Yellowing is such a general.
Yeah.
It's tough. You really got to look at the variables.
That's back to basics. That's what I always tell myself. Back to basics. Back to basics. So if I have an issue that's going on in the garden, back to basics. What does that mean? Now I got to pull up my EC meter, my ppm meter. Got to pull up the pH meter. You got to check your runoff. You got to make sure that everything is going the way it's going, or coming out the way it's going in. You want to make sure that their parts per million is in your range. Where are you in veg? Where are you in flower? Is it 700 parts per million? Is it 1200 parts per million? Where are you in terms of pH? Is it way too high? Is it way too low? That's the basics. And these are things that I don't do. I don't check my parts per million. I don't check my pH. I don't check my runoff. I don't check all these things until I have an issue. Then I got to dial it all back. And then within 3-4 days, depending on what your medium is, because we haven't even asked you that yet. We don't even asked you what you're feeding. We don't even know if you're organic or we don't even know if you're synthetic, because those are 2 different answers that we're going to give you. So it's like back to basics, back to basics, back to basics.
Well, and just like Idiom's saying, too much light too. Light stress, I've seen that as well. And it
100%.
usually starts a little different, but it's like, did you notice it when it started? That's a big thing too. And then toxicity, do you notice like the tips of the leaves are slightly burnt or curling just a little bit? There's so many variables. Good thing is to join either CLtv Discord or the Flax Discord over at Pigeons Discord, and check that out and post it in there and get visuals so people can see it, and then write everything that you've done so far. So that way people can actually give you a solid answer without throwing 30 different variables like we just did.
And there's literally people, and I know I can speak for Rob's Discord, there's literally people in there that are actively looking for people to help. You know, they know the information and they just want to share it, you know. So head on over to the Discord, forget the forums, forget the blogs, head to the Discord and literally just type. I have a section, I know Rob does too, plant questions, plant problems, troubleshooting my plant, those kind of things. And you just go in there, type a picture with as much information in point form as you can to give people an idea what you got growing on. And then, man, I tell you, you're going to have it fixed. But just one little thing is of information. In this one answer, we've told you it's pH, it's your parts per million, it's your nitrogen, it's your iron, it's a lockout. Change one thing at a time, baby. One thing at a time. You know, don't start overdosing everything or don't start flushing everything. One thing at a time. If you start changing everything, you'll never figure out what it was that went wrong, and you could go down a spiral of just insecurities.
Big facts. Big facts.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Good sesh, guys.
Great questions, guys. Great questions. You guys are animals. We appreciate you guys turning up, man. Guys, thank you so much for being a part of it. Huge shout out to our sponsors of the show. Links in the description. If you guys want to save any kind of funds, if you guys are setting up a garden, please search the discount codes, because some of these give us a kickback on the channel, but the majority of these don't. This is just a discount code to help save you a few dollars on at checkout. So please go check that out. Please go check that out. And thank you to everybody in the show today, man. You guys are animals for all the support. Big Sexy Buds, all the bits. Thank you, guys. This show would not be possible if it wasn't for you guys. And if I may, gentlemen, if you go over to my Twitter, Pigeons420, I actually sent out a tweet, okay, to a guy by the name of, what's his name? Seth Rogen. I need you guys to head over there, and I need you guys to retweet that tweet. If you guys want to see Seth Rogen on From the Stash podcast, you gotta go send it, okay? You gotta go send some information or go retweet it, let it be known, because he's got a mentorship coming out. He's gonna be offering free for people that want to get educated on growing. So I would like to talk to him about it, and I think these boys would too. So if you guys would like to see him on the show, it's a community effort. So you got to go bombard these people. Don't be nice about it, but let them know you want to see him on the show, and it's that much easier for them to respond.
Fuck yeah, Hoser. Well, good shit. And
see you guys
over on P-Stream.
Hell yeah. Live on YouTube right now, baby. Come check it out. See you guys.